All right, we're all set. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of this AT Town Hall. We have a handful of people on video, so you're seeing them on your screen now. We have a bunch of people who joined just on the without their camera on. So thank you to everybody. It's good to see everybody here. I hope you're all doing well. I hope things are moving along for you and your families. This is another one of our exciting virtual adventures here from the ATAC Center. I think the ATAC Center is getting a ton of video content lately because I'm sitting at home and I can't go anywhere. So there's been a lot of content for them. We have some panel members there. Some of them are here. Karen's here. Kelly's here. Is Elisa here? I thought I saw Elisa, but just maybe not on video. Maybe she'll pop on in 3 seconds. I felt like I saw her, but maybe I didn't. Good, let's talk about her. Jen is here.
Hello.
Hey, Jen. Hey, Jen.
Hi, Jen. Hi.
So as we go, make sure you share things in the chat. If you're not gonna feel comfortable opening up your microphone or turning on your video, share in the chat. We'll keep the chat rolling so we can see what's happening, and we'll answer some questions. I don't have many starters this week. I have a link to that remote access for all document that people have been adding to, which is really grown. Here it is. I don't know how many pages it is now, but it's a lot of info now. So we have that. It's now 6 pages long of resources that people have been adding to it. So please make sure if you have something that you want to share with the group, drop it there. It's a really good spot for it. It's been a nice place to put things that we have to share with each other, and anything. I said to a group the other day, I'm not moderating that in any way. I left it open. Every once in a while, it goes back to a view only because I think people share it within their school domain, and then that triggers it to knock everybody else off. So I have to go back in and reset the sharing every once in a while. But it is open, and everybody can edit. So feel free to drop anything you want there. We do have our AT Chat website. Don't forget it, even though I forget it all the time. Don't forget it, atchat.info. It has all of the chat archives from past weeks. It has a link to that document I just showed you. And also we're working up a FAQ under distance learning AT supports. Lisa's been doing this and Kelly's been working on this page too, which is awesome. It has a bit of an FAQ. So there's all the town hall videos. We'll load in about 3 seconds. There they are. So the document's at the top. The town hall videos are right underneath it. And then underneath that is an FAQ. If people have given ideas throughout these conversations, how does a student write on a PDF? And we've dropped in some answers there as we've gathered them from the conversation. So again, that's been a nice growing website. It's pretty exciting that it's been moving along as nice as it has. So definitely make sure you share that with people because hopefully that will continue to grow. That's it. That was all of the little, what'd you call that? Housekeeping. How about that? I don't know. I felt like we could start with something positive. Does anybody have something positive from the last week? Kelly just turned her microphone off. That was funny. She's like, no, my mic's off. Oh, God. She turned her video off too. Wow. Karen, what do you got?
Well, I actually had a school district reach out today. Very excited.
That's good.
It is really. So they want me to do some professional development with them about universal design, and they also want us to reach out to some of their program special educators. So they're realizing that this would be a great time to get another voice in there to help them understand some other options. So so that's what we're going to do. And so it was really exciting to have a school district reach out because they're very concerned about meeting the needs of all their learners. So that was great.
That's great. That's awesome. That is positive. Because wasn't it just last week, Karen, you were concerned that no one had reached out about anything?
Yeah. Oh, and I noticed Patty is here. She's going to be doing a good session this week. Maybe she can talk about that too.
Wonderful.
On Wednesday with Don Johnston, we started this months ago following a group of kids that were using our our tools, Don Johnston's tools, reading, Snap and Read and Co-Writer, and talking to them and their teachers. And then this all happened. So now we're shifting to see how did it impact them now while they're at home. So we've been checking in with them and their parents to get some feedback. So just thinking about it, kind of reflective of how it worked out, to have those tools available. So it's been good, but we still have teachers that are in panic mode at 10:30 at night. It's like, can you send me those resources again so I can learn about Co-Writer? This panic.
Yeah. We're going to get past the panic at some point, I feel like.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Patty, if you could drop the link in the chat for your webinar Wednesday so people have it, that would be awesome.
Okay.
I'm sharing my screen so it would look weird. You guys would watch me try to surf the internet, and that's bizarre. So I'll ask you to dig it in there. That would be great.
We've seen you do weirder things, Mike.
Yeah, that's to be the least of the things I could do for you guys.
So, I don't know if anybody follows the, I'm sorry, Joseph.
That's okay.
I don't know if anybody follows the closed captioning, but Co-Writer became Cobra Hater.
Oh yeah, that's fun. I don't know if people are using these captions a lot. Joe, now I butted in. Sorry, and then
that's okay. AI. I was just gonna say AI at its best.
Yeah, AI at its best is right. It's amazing that I can't get it to recognize AT ever. It's 80 every time.
Yeah.
And it's forced me to start thinking about how I talk on a webinar now, and I always say assistive technology now. Because I know I won't get that.
Yeah.
With your accent, it does sound like you're saying AD.
No, it doesn't. Stop it.
It really does.
I don't have an accent. What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
I ain't got an accent.
I got no accent.
Who else has a positive story?
I did something last week that maybe not new to everybody, but it's the first time I've ever done it. We found out that a student who uses voice to text broke his headphones, fell asleep with them on, and rolled over and snapped the microphone. I provided AT without ever seeing the kid. I called, I got online, I ordered one, and I put their address in for the shipping address, and we shipped it straight to the house because I'm not allowed to leave my property.
Yes, that's perfect. That is good remote service right there.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Last week, a colleague of mine did a webinar for how paraprofessionals can support their students and the teachers with distance learning or continuous learning, and it went really, really well. Still getting tons of questions, so that's a really big need, and so that was great. Yeah, we've been asked to do it again, so hopefully we'll do that again.
Is there a link for that yet, Kelly, somewhere that people can watch it?
So we're captioning it, so it will be.
All right, awesome. Great. That was one of the questions again today, because it keeps coming up, this idea about how do we use this great resource we have of paraprofessionals? How do we use them to help navigate this moment? And some people are doing it well. Others, it hasn't even been part of the conversation yet. And so maybe, Kelly, you have like maybe one or two key takeaways from that?
No, you put me on the spot.
Yeah, you want to think about it? We'll come back to you.
Yeah, we provided some tech, higher tech, and then just low tech options. So we incorporated just starting off with how we as educators can support our paraeducators. So it was a lot about offering. So this is the time for professional development. I was a paraprofessional for 5 years, and I remember if I would have known what I know now, I would have been, a more impactful paraprofessional. So it's just taking this time now to offer all of the professional development. So the webinars, all the, the teachers that are getting training now and doing book clubs. We even talked about having paraeducators with the teachers doing the Netflix party. You know how we talked about that last week. So just some things like that. I'm happy to share my handout as well. Maybe I'll just get that out there for you.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, just something to look at would be wonderful. Perfect. Thanks.
So, Mike, I know I'm late, but can I still share a positive story?
No, not until you have to sit in timeout for 5 minutes, and then you could, and you leave your camera on and just stare at it, just sadly. Yes,
the
of
day-o
course.
meetings. I've just gone from meeting to meeting to meeting. It's ridiculous.
Hello, Elisa. Share.
Hi. So I've been working with our local robotics team, Wern Riptide, and we are building something that I've never seen before, which always makes it kind of fun. I'm going to see if the picture does it justice. But they are building a bracelet of tactile. So you'll see it's raised, 3D printed. And on the back is the Braille letter for the request.
Nice.
So we have a student who is both going blind and losing her speech. And we had to kind of think creatively, how do we come up with a communication system that will work long-term for her? So initially I have these on a Go Talk so they connect to voice output, but then we thought we need to have something that long-term she can use when she's sitting someplace. Right now they're on a bracelet, they'll probably end up on a necklace, but like, I don't know if they're coming across. We have stop, which that was the easiest one probably to come up with the Braille letter S on the back. We have drink. These are the high school kids that came up with this stuff. I was like, I need a word, you come up with a picture. And then the Braille letter D on the back. Bathroom, which is the women's sign. Help, which is like this exclamation point with a triangle. A bed for I want to sleep or I'm tired. And a fork for I'm hungry. They have a couple more like social appropriate. They ask for things she likes, things she wants to talk about, things that are, and I said, you guys are teenagers. What would you guys say? So one of them actually, I gave her kudos because she's like, what I want to do all day is I want to go through and I want to listen to what all my friends say. And those are the things I want to say. And I said, I'm going to give you a big fancy word for that. I said, you want a language sample. They were like, that's what I want to do. So she did a language sample of her friends and her across the day as they've been video chatting and has been like taking notes on what are the things that they say that are like socially appropriate. I'm like, I'm too old. I don't know those things. Yeah, right. You come up with them. And then if you can come up with a way to, I'm calling it pictogram because I don't know what else to call this raised portion. And then come up with the Braille letter. They've got this whole Google Doc of all the little letters they've already used and things that have left. I went to them with the problem and a proposed solution that we had come up with. I think I want a bracelet or a necklace. They got to hear, and the robotics person just dropped it off at my house yesterday.
That's awesome. That's so cool. We had something in the chat asking if you could share that language sample.
I probably can. I think it's in the Google Doc that we've got. So I will pull it up and see if I can and share it. If I can, maybe we'll post it on the AT chat someplace.
Okay.
The website.
Perfect. Perfect. And just as an organizational thing, if you guys are on and you notice your mic suddenly gets muted, it's probably because I heard some noise coming from your end. And I like order and I like being able to control things like that. No, it does. I'm just trying to help out.
So that's my fun, positive story. It doesn't have an end to the story yet, but so far I'm pretty excited about what the high school kids have come up with.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It speaks to how kids want to be productive. They want to do things of value. How awesome an example is that? That's tremendous.
Well, and you know, I reached out to, because Wern Riptide has been doing stuff with Bill Binko's group and a bunch of other places forever. And I reached out to them when their season was canceled. And I said, if you're looking for a way to kind of salvage the good vibes of this season, I've got projects up the wazoo that don't belong, you know, don't mean you have to be in the same space. And AT has always been their love. So I think it was a natural, here's how, especially for our seniors, we can kind of go out with, look at all this awesome stuff we were able to do that didn't involve a robot.
Yeah, for sure. And so, Alyssa, are they printing those at their own houses?
So this, we actually happen to have University of Florida in our backyard, and that is one of their collaborative partners. So yes, they have 3D printers at PK Young where the teacher could go and print there, but this one was actually printed at UF. I think it's easier on the quadra-bazillion-dollar machines to do the two-tone.
Yeah, yeah.
So we happen, I mean, and all the universities have one. This is the engineering department.
That's really cool. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That was cool. I like that a lot. That was awesome.
Yeah. Any other success stories, positive stories before we move on?
And you can share a positive story at any point, but yeah.
A general positive theme that's been going on lately.
Go ahead, what?
You hear me okay? I'm worried
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
It's been kind of exciting just in general as we get through the despair a little bit and folks are starting to wrap their brains around this. I love seeing all the posts from therapists and classroom teachers feeling like, I didn't think this would work at all, and I am figuring out so many great things to do one-on-one with Zoom or GoToMeeting or Google Meet. I feel like in general, I'm seeing a shift in mindset about what we can do.
Yeah. And I think you're right. It's because people have passed over the panic and the running around like your hair was on fire. And now they've kind of settled back in and said, okay, well, how can I do something?
Yep.
Yeah, that's exciting. Can you share one activity that you saw somebody working on that they didn't think would work and it did?
Figuring out how to model language and turn over the controls of like an AAC emulator. They turn over the controls so that the user could activate it using their mouse. It was just kind of cool, and just folks figuring out how, oh, I can show my device and me and my story at the same time. Just lots of folks figuring out how to use these tools that we have to try to make it work. And some saying, oh, I have more engagement from family now, and maybe this is something I'm going to add to my practice in the future. So, I mean, there's tough things with every positive thing, but overall, I've seen a lot of that this week.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I think, Jen, that's definitely happened in regards to our hospital homebound teachers who are already in the spot of, I go to the house and I support them, but how do I support them in the meantime? And now that we've kind of got them up and running and like not so tech phobic, still a little tech phobic to be honest, but I think now they're seeing, oh, I could schedule a 20-minute parent check-in in between the 2 sessions I go and just check in with the family. And that would be far more effective than some of the other methods I've tried to do to help the family support. So I could see, like you were saying, long-term, this sticking as a tool that could be used for those students who aren't hospital homebound.
Right. Silver linings.
Yeah.
Gotta find them. Otherwise we go crazy.
Exactly. And reminding people, I had this last week with some staff that I was working with. We don't have to schedule a Zoom meeting for everything. If you can text me something and I can text you back, let's do that. If we need to just get on the phone and just talk to each other without the video, let's do that. And reminding them that not everything is about jumping from one video conference meeting to another.
That's right. I was talking to just some colleagues in our field, and we were thinking, why was last week so crazy? And when I turned my Mac on this morning, I've never gotten this, but I got this notification that popped up and it said, your screen time was 40% higher last week, which shows that you were on your computer for 7 hours and 15 minutes per day. And I was like, oh my gosh, no. So I'm taking that advice, Mike, and like, okay, we got to figure this out.
Yeah. And just thinking about taking more, and I know we had this conversation last week about people that work from home a lot. This is a different working at home. I work at home a lot, but this has been very different. Now that everybody's working from home, it's just been 100 times worse. And I just said to somebody, this is my 3rd meeting already this morning. So I've already had 3. I said to somebody in my very first meeting, the best thing that happened all weekend is I shut my computer off and I didn't look at my email once, and I closed the lid of my laptop so I didn't even see it. And that was the best thing I could have done. And I think we all need to do that a little bit.
Yes.
That's right. Good reminder.
Yeah, for sure. So what else? Anybody else in the chat have something they want to share? Question, a thought, an issue?
If nobody else, I have a question for people. How are you handling IEP meetings and annual meetings, evaluation meetings? How is that happening?
So I can tell you what's happening in my district. Everything that was scheduled previously that has to be rescheduled is being rescheduled. We already use G Suite, so all those meetings are going to be becoming Google Meet meetings. If a parent doesn't have Google Meet, it still gives a phone number in the Google Meet that they can call in. We've set our ESC people up. All the staffing specialists, all the people who would be doing signing at the meeting have kind of learned a couple of programs we can use to use digital signatures. We're offering them to have over the phone. And then the ones that are upcoming have just been, they've gone into the Google Calendar invite and added them as a Google Meet. If an evaluation was in progress but not finished, we've kind of just hit the pause button. Because a lot of our school psychologists are like, I can't test, virtually. I could do an OT evaluation, some of those standardized tests virtually, but it's hard for a psychologist with the kit components and a lot of the tests. And we are getting no more new consents for eval right now.
Yeah.
And I can talk from Katie ISD perspective. They're trying to hold all the annuals and any that were already in the mix. And if the eval was completed, they can go ahead and review and move forward. If they weren't completed, we put in there's a prior written notice about the emergency, closure. And again, we hit pause. We don't upload those. We're gonna hit pause till we can do the evaluation piece. So some of them, I have a couple that I've done everything except the actual meeting with the student and collecting some data. So I'm just making, and those I feel comfortable making recommendations, not even recommendations, but they can just use the universal tools and see how they're going until we come back, and I can provide training virtually, which is fine. Show the parents how to use them, but that's it. The other ones are on hold. And if it was just if there was an AT eval, like they had requested just like an AT evaluation, they're holding those. They're moving them back. So.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Ashley had a similar question about trials and things like that. It's in the chat. If your district has a student who went through the process, the AT process, and was about to start a trial, are you conducting the trial during this distance learning time? Elisa answered her in the chat and said, I am for some students that we can drop off a device at the home and get the parent on board. Otherwise, we are pausing and providing what we can in the meantime. Yeah,
I have a student I'm taking out a device to tomorrow that I've made more help guides and videos than I probably typically would have, but it's a device trial we already was set to go out the first day of us closing. And I'm like, I have this stuff. I got the okay to take it out there. To me, I think I can pause, and I'm kind of happy because they get to drive out of my house. I'm going to take it in a plastic bin and leave it on their door. It's like drive-by AT.
Yeah.
We had 2 evaluations that came up, and that was they were finished. The students were going to begin trial with their iPads and a communication tool, and we put them on pause because the piece about the parents hadn't had any training. The teacher wanted to continue it at school so that they could monitor it and collect the data, and so we had the student just revert back to using what they were already using successfully, and we're staying in connection with them, but we're not going to move forward yet.
Hi, it's Ashley. I just want to jump in. So in my district, most of our kids, well, actually all of them, they have Chromebooks. So a lot of our tools that we recommend, again, there are things that they can do from home. The one thing I'm worried about is, our AAC devices, those type of trials. Are you guys moving forward with any AAC trials?
No, and that's what I was referring to in our district. Anybody that had a Chromebook or that needed a Chromebook, we gave them out. We distributed them to anybody in the district got them. But the AAC devices are different.
Yeah. And even for my trials for, say learning tools such as, speech to text or whatever, I think we're going to move forward with those. Obviously, they're not going to look like, official trials with data being collected, but I think just providing those tools to these students, especially during, this time of learning, I don't think it's going to hurt them.
Yeah, in our district, those are considered universal tools. Anybody can access them. So it doesn't matter. They can get them from home or at school. We don't really, if they're a student that they're needed for, we consider it AT for them, we'll monitor them, but we just connect them to the tools.
Yeah, so the one that I'm taking today is an AAC device, but they're probably much fewer and far between than the, hey, remember we have district-wide snap and read, and we have, some of the higher incidence disabilities. I probably have 4 situations that are active AAC devices out of my entire district, and 2 of them are in this scenario where we're taking things out. 2 are ones that we already have things out that we sent home to continue the trial. And then we're distributing I've done a lot of US mail or drive-by drop-off corkboard posters and corkboards and layouts and training materials.
Yeah, I think every situation is a little different. I've been doing a lot of AAC trials for devices, and every team is a little different on what they're deciding to do next and what makes sense. But I've really spent a lot of time helping families use their device, especially if it's going to be funded by insurance and not the school, because that home data is so important. And how we do community data is getting very creative with Zoom, but it's been a pretty great response helping the families and bringing in, as the school teams become more available and coming through the chaos and getting kind of settling into what's the new normal. I've been having so far, the beginning, have really good success with helping folks get started. So, and all of the companies are putting out information to extend trials, to give you different kinds of support and more home support for families too. But each situation just has to be considered a little differently, what the family and the team's ready for.
Yeah, I think it's that family being ready for it is the real deciding factor here, is where they're at, because they're now your link. They're the key to the whole process right now, because they are there the whole time. They are with your student, and where are their tech skills? Where is their comfort level? And how can we make sure it doesn't feel like we're dumping this entire trial on them? That's always my concern.
We have students with eye gaze devices, and we have a CODA who's an ATP on our team, and she's providing support for the parents at home through Zoom. And we delivered the device to their front porch. We have other parents where the students receive Braille materials, and we have some of them who have declined those. They don't want to bring them into their house. So it really is up to the family. I have a student who broke his joystick to his device back, I think it was over Christmas, and we just got it in, and we got permission to go to our warehouse and get it. And now we're programming it, and we're going to drop it off to the parents and do the setting up via Zoom so that the parents can use it, because he's had it before, but they just need to connect it to his device.
I think that's all great. And like everyone said, it's a case-by-case basis. And what I did is currently, so for my students who currently have assistive technology as a part of their IEPs this morning, I actually just created a little brief, short Google form, and I sent it out to the parents with just a couple questions. Does your student know how to use their assistive technology? Are they currently using it? And then again, do you guys want to set up either live trainings for either your child or yourself, or do you just want me to send you guys some, instructions and, go that route? So I've been getting, some pretty good responses from people that way. And I think I'm going to do the same for my few kiddos who, again, we're about to begin trials, and leave it up to the parents.
One of the things I'm wondering if anyone else is facing, I know in Massachusetts, the SLPs have been very reluctant to provide telepractice because of the SLP regulations in our state. And in fact, some districts have even said we will not provide telepractice at all because they're worried about losing their license. Is anyone else concerned about that? Has that been an issue in any other state?
Yeah, we had that. We had a bit of that issue too. I'm just trying to look it up. The doxy.me is the only site, telesite that we had direction from our State Department that we could use for certain therapies because of HIPAA regulations. And our SLPs and our social workers have been told to use that site. But yeah, it's been a question. We have kids who have left the state to go with family somewhere else to ride this out. And our OTs and PTs are not allowed to provide them any services because they're not in the state of Maryland. And that would be a violation of their licensure. And that's what people are worried about, because you can't tell where the kids really are.
Yeah.
They could tell you where they are, but if they're not, how does that affect them, the professional? And that's a big concern that we've been addressing here and looking at. I don't have all the answers to that yet because that's above my pay grade. Well above.
Yeah,
Massachusetts, the Board of Registration actually just sent out a letter that I just got this morning, I think it was, saying that they're waiving the telepractice requirements for now, and saying that you have to get, a speech pathologist should plan to get 10 hours of telepractice education over the next 4 months, or 4 months from when they start providing the practice or whatever. So that sounds like they're trying to put a waiver in place for the time being and get people up to speed here in Massachusetts anyway.
Thank you.
That's great. Great to hear.
And I was going to say, reach out to your legislative members that you have communication with, because I know we had an instance here in Oklahoma where most of the PTs were covered to be able to do their practice over telehealth, but a certain portion of them by one insurance company was left out of the conversation somehow, some way. And we immediately spoke to one of the representatives that we talked to on education all the time. He said, okay, it got to the governor. Within 4 hours, that group was added to the exemption list. So if you have one question, find that legislative member you've had contact with, because they are trying to figure out the best way to help families the fastest they can. So that would be my 2 cents on that.
That's a great 2 cents, Tiffany. And
Yes.
Also thinking about all of the issues that our legislators are dealing with, that could be in their eyes a quick win to go forward. If that's all it took, and it might be a positive, just how we started with a positive story, that might be their positive story.
Just knowing what the problem is sometimes is the way of getting it fixed. And like I said, it was a fluke that this one, health organization was left out, but it was a large portion of PTs. So that's the big caveat. And our legislature is actually meeting for the first time currently at the Capitol, and none of them are in the same room. There's like 3 of them on the House floor, and that's it. But it's the first time that they've been on our House at the Capitol since like March 17th, because we had several members test positive. So new world of technology for them too.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. You beat me to it. Yeah, it's that every aspect of our community is learning this experience as they go. Just like we are. Yeah, it's a really good point.
Yeah, all of these unexpected things that have come about because of this unprecedented situation. And I think what we always have to do is think about students first. Do what's right for kids first.
Right. Yeah, so Crystal put in the chat box. So with recent information with Zoom being hacked, does anyone know anything more information about that? Or how are you? So I was going to ask that question. For those of you who cannot use Zoom now, and perhaps you were before, what does that look like for you?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Valerie, and I'm from Arizona, and I work at South Mountain Community College, and we were using Zoom, but now our company just purchased a program called WebEx. So since I've been hearing some questionable comments about Zoom, we're now converting to WebEx.
Excellent. Have you played with it yet, Valerie? And has it been working well?
Yeah, it works well. I just haven't seen any, I've only used it once, but I haven't seen any information that uses like captioning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that real-time captioning becomes the trick with all of these services, is how you get around that. I know that Zoom rolled out some added security over the weekend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have to be honest, I didn't read it. I just saw the little blurb pop up on my Zoom meeting when I opened it, but I haven't read it yet. I don't know if anybody else has.
It requires, or it defaults down to chat room on, which you can go in and turn off, but all the passwords are required.
Okay.
The easiest thing you can do for folks is you can go in and turn on to embed the password in an email link, so it's a one-click enter. But if you turn that off, they still require the password. It's just to keep people from guessing a number. I mean, let's face it, the numbers aren't that big, and there's so many Zoom rooms going on right now. Your chances of hitting one are pretty good.
Yeah.
So phone calls and anybody going through the app have to have the password.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. And the other thing too is, it's some of it was common sense things, is people were putting their Zoom IDs in, out on the internet or things like that. And so, just thinking about how to do that, even with this one, it was a registration link that you guys got.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to get in that way. The open office hour on Friday is just a regular open. That'll be fun. Maybe I'll change that. Good. I'll add that to my list of things to do this week. That's great.
Yeah.
Just get on. Awesome. I see Bruce in the chat mentioned he was able to pull together a 6-item summary of requirements for OT, PT, and speech for the state of Oregon. Most of them overlapped and are simple for districts to implement. Oh, I like that.
I can talk about that a little if you want.
That was me pressuring you without pressuring you, Bruce. Welcome.
Thank you. What I was looking for is, hold on, I'm gonna have to change my sound. Oh, how is this? Okay, well, let me step away. No, it's not working either. Sorry, I had to go to sending the sound through my phone because it was breaking up too much. All right, so briefly, what I looked for was going to the licensing board for OT, PT, and speech and seeing what the specific Oregon regulations were. And then I put them all together on a grid and pulled out the areas of commonality. And basically, the student has to be in the same state, although I've heard some discussion about that here. You need to have a plan in place, so if there's an emergency that occurs at the remote site, you have an action, and that means knowing the family's address, and the action is call 911 and provide the address. And there's a couple others that are pretty simple, but the one that was in most of them is the patient, that's their language, the patient has to opt in to telehealth. So you can't say I'm providing telehealth, you need them to say I want telehealth. And that just means having and it can be verbal. So that just means the case manager or the district sends out a letter or email and the parent opts in. So there's a few others for speech, but otherwise it's not that difficult. If you start to look at what the insurance regs say, then it gets a lot more complicated. But we really don't have to worry about that. And maybe the last was HIPAA requirement for communication, but that's since been waived. So that's not, I basically figure if the district's method meets FERPA or they have a signed privacy agreement, we're fine to use it right now.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you jumping on. Yeah, what a simple best practice that is in the beginning. You don't make a statement that we are providing telehealth. You ask, would you like to participate in telehealth? Right, that little change of how you bring this conversation up, and do you have some kind of form that the families are filling out that says they give permission, and what do you do? How flexible is your service if someone says no, or they don't agree with the way you plan on doing it?
That's the road we're walking in right now. So I think I previously shared, or we put someplace, the form for our OTPTs in speech. It does have the, we are able to provide this, is this the service you're interested in question. If they say no, I've only had one person have a question about the consent that we send them. And we're still kind of sorting out what that consent, that question is. And then the flip side is if they say, you know, no, I'm not interested, we basically have said we can offer phone support, we can offer paper support. Are you interested in either of those? Our directive from the district has been, even if they say they're not interested in paper packets, we are still to send paper packets. That is across the board to gen ed teachers or therapists. And it's part of that good faith effort to show we are providing materials. So at the minimum, our students will receive some kind of OTPT speech packet if they decline or don't want any of the other services.
Yeah, that's a good point. The good faith packet part of it. Yeah, I have a group I'm working with where they were going to do group therapy sessions, small group, 2 people, 3 people. And someone said no, like a family said, no, I'm not interested in that. And then that caused everybody to kind of regroup a little and say, all right, well, how would we do this now? And now the scheduling part comes in where they're going to do that single student alone, which again is fine. That was the choice.
Yeah, we specifically put group in our consent. But if we've had one parent that said, I would prefer not, given, you know, I've got a chaotic family environment, et cetera, and that therapist is just scheduling that one kid, even though their IEP says, most of our IEPs that are group actually, because we do Medicaid school reimbursement, say individual/group. So we're still covered in terms of providing the service that's on their IEP. And again, we've only had 1 or 2 parents that have said, I would prefer this. And we're operating out of the mode in our district. The directive from the superintendent has been to provide and operate out of grace and compassion. Yeah. And I love that that's been the mentality that has been pushed down, is we're making the decision off of grace and compassion. And if it's not exactly what the IEP says, okay, fine. Are we still providing the service? And is that really what's in the best interest of the family, taking into account their need for grace and compassion? Then we're doing it.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a great point. Awesome.
That is coming from administration, Elisa, that terminology that we're doing.
Yes, ma'am. I am so excited.
Excellent.
And we've gotten other emails as a staff from our superintendent that have been, here's an article that kind of captures what we're going for in terms of grace and compassion. And so if you hear the words grace and compassion in our district, you know that it was like, it's not that it's been force fed at all, like use these words so we sound good, but it's been their mentality from the very beginning of this. Is we have families in crisis who they're only worried about, how am I going to feed my kid? And we need to operate from the mentality of remembering that. And I think that's kind of where some of that grace and compassion flowed out of thinking, yes, education is important. Getting your Google Classroom is set up is important, but does the parent know how to access our free food?
Yeah.
That's almost more important in this last week.
Yes, I would agree. That is definitely more important. I agree.
Awesome.
That is awesome, right? I like that.
I'm very proud of my district. Sometimes, you know, I kind of go, really? This has been one where I've been like, I love this, that this is the overarching decision point thought. Are we operating out of grace and compassion for our families? Beautiful.
That is great.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Something that all districts can keep in mind too, with the decisions that they are making. And they are making very difficult decisions, but yeah, putting students first out of grace and compassion, everything that will work.
I'm definitely hearing, as things hit a little harder here in Massachusetts too, within our local districts, like children not having a place to go because their parents are sick, or at the last minute being needed transferred or go someplace else. So I think that social emotional piece, everybody's trying to kind of put that first. It is not as beautifully put as grace and compassion. I love what you're doing down there, but I'm definitely seeing that basic needs and supporting families emotionally are more important right now. While they're making amazingly wonderful and creative things and posting them online and really having the energy now to be like, okay, my other kids, how do I support them? It's just it's a tough time. I love that. I'm not going to forget grace and compassion.
No, that's kind of locked in my brain right now. I like that.
And last week, Alyssa, what did you say? We're doing the second best thing,
The next right thing.
the next right thing. I have to
Next
remember
right
that.
thing. And it's kind of been, been the way, honestly, from a social emotional perspective, I've not been freaking out, or I've been trying to talk myself off the ledge from freaking out. It's like, okay, yes, like this is crazy. I am transforming 70 therapists to be teletherapists in a 3-day period. Oh, like, okay, what's the next best thing, the next right thing I need to do? And that's, if I keep that mentality, I think it helps me from freaking out most of the time. Yeah. Just how, and it's that theory of like, let's just bite off the next thing we need to get taken care of and make sure that it's the right decision out of, again, that grace and compassion. And I think I've been really good about pushing to my therapist, to those OT-PTs in speech, like, not only do we want to give our families grace and compassion, but you need to give yourself grace and compassion. I have therapists who are within months and or a year of retirement, and we're suddenly saying to them, let's change pretty much everything about how you do your therapy. And I'm saying, you're not supposed to have to pick this up overnight. It's okay. Like, give yourself that same grace and compassion to make a mistake, to not know the answer. We've inundated with you information, so if you can't find it, I understand. Let's get it to you again. Like, and I think just trying to remember that from a staff person's perspective, in the staff you're working with, has been like a huge kind of aha about how we've been doing things, how I've tried to do things in the last week.
Yeah, I think that's true. And being positive to people when they make those little leaps forward. I had just last week, I worked with somebody on Wednesday, and our video interaction was what I would characterize as a bit of a nightmare. It just didn't go well. And it was a learning curve for everybody involved, for the two of us figuring out how to do it. But then we did it again on Friday, and it was really good. And so we had a conversation at the end like, hey, we're getting better at this. It's okay, we'll get there. And then next week it'll be even better. And I'll see that person again Wednesday, and I'm sure it's going to be better still. So just reminding people that you're getting there. It's okay. So true.
I think these Mondays have just been worth it, having Elisa like give us the motivational speech for the week. Like, I'm fueled for the whole week now, every time.
If I had enough free time, I would put them on a virtual background and print them behind me. But I don't have that kind of time right now. But man, that would be great.
Oh, come on. Canva's your friend. You could do that in 2 seconds in Canva.
I'm tweeting this stuff. I'm totally tweeting.
Come on, the next right thing. And
the next right thing. And I think it's been more centering for me and more important for me than maybe even my staff. And yeah, our superintendent is also doing we're building the plane as we're flying it. To kind of calm down the people, Jeannie. Yeah, we're definitely we're trying to kind of get them to understand. And especially, we've had some parents who've been upset because the communication coming to them is not coming as fast from another teacher who's just a super go-getter. And we've kind of had to say, like, give us a second, we're figuring this out, we promise we haven't forgotten you. Yeah, Lisa, I have 70 therapists between SLPs, OTs, and PTs that we are moving to teletherapy. And it has all been through training on Google Meet. If you want information, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to share what we've done, because somebody should benefit from the crazy hours of work beyond just my therapist.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And think about it. Can you combine some of these interactions? One of the conversations I had with a team on Friday was, instead of each of us emailing a separate schedule to a family, could we all collaborate on one and share one thing with the family, and then have a conversation about how they might reach out to each of us, or maybe call them first and say, hey, by the way, we're working on this now as a group. We just want you to know when it comes, don't get overwhelmed by it, but it'll be one single spot where you'll be able to see that we've all coordinated our services together. And that's been helpful.
That's one way I can brag on the district that I actually live in, that my kids go to. I'm not working with this particular district right now, but they did last week. By Wednesday, you had a schedule of what time pre-K was meeting, what time kindergarten was meeting, first, second, And then you had your schedule of what time, what hours you were going to meet with your teachers, whether you were intermediate through high school. And it's set times with the set office hours. There's no question about it. You have that plan. It's going to be that set time every day for those kids. And that to me has been fabulous. I don't have to worry about my high school kid. Yes. I know he's going to be up by 10 o'clock, which I greatly appreciate the 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock session for high school versus the 8:30 for pre-K. But I mean, they know exactly when they're going to have their class and what's going to be expected of them. And we knew that today's the first day for virtual learning in Oklahoma. We had our spring break and then 2 weeks to gear up for it. But I've talked to some parents and they've had no communication, have no idea what their kids are supposed to be doing. And they're waiting for something to post to Google Classroom. So it's a little bit of a Wild West at the moment. Yeah. But those who are doing the great communication are the ones that I think are going to be the most successful. And some of them, I mean, we're lucky. Our schools have been, one-to-one device from, I guess it's 7th grade on, and our 5th and 6th grade were close enough to being one-to-one that anyone who needed a computer got one by the end of last week too. So a little bit of a brag on my home district.
I think it's great. It's great to hear when communication's working, right?
And they've got their one pager. It posts on Facebook. It posted on Twitter. So everybody's been able to see it and access it.
Yeah. I mean, this school really put some thought into this, and it is a shared doc that the team members and the family members all have editing rights to. And they can use it as a running conversation underneath the schedule, but the schedule is always posted at the top. So they'll always have only one document to go hunt for. Make it a home screen on your computer when you open the browser. And then it's there. Make that document your tab that opens as a home. Because I think it was Cheryl just wrote this in the chat about getting all these different, 7 different emails, different times of the day, assignments randomly being dropped into different places. It's a lot. If you just know that there's that one spot I can go to kind of manage some of it, what a huge help that could be. And Jen is going to try to teach her grace and compassion to her teachers.
I'm trying to have grace and compassion for my kids' teachers, because I will say it's tough. We're trying to figure this out, but the last minute Zoom meeting requests from 5 or 6 different folks while you're trying to work and schedule too it's tough. Everybody's trying to figure it out. Yeah.
I had to talk to somebody in a team meeting the other day because they said that they had sent a request to a parent. This is such an interesting story. They sent a request to a parent that they'd like to have a Zoom meeting in 15 minutes and they're going to need them for an hour. And the parent just wrote back in an email, no. And that was it. Never responded again. And the teacher was like, wow, that was so rude. And so I waited until we were done with the meeting and I sent her a request and said, I need you on Zoom in 5 minutes and we're going to talk about some new AT. And she wrote back, she's like, well, that's really not going to work for me right now. And I said, there you go. That's the point, is think about other people on the other side and what everybody's doing. But it's really kind of an interesting thing. We got a couple more minutes before we wrap up. Any burning things people want to talk about?
I'm curious if there's anyone out there doing supports for kids who have vision impairments, and specifically kids who are using Braille, and how they're providing those.
Our Braille transcriptionist luckily has a manual Brailler at home because our school buildings, including my office, are locked down. And that's across our state. We're not allowed in the buildings, and we're not allowed to have anybody, even if somebody that's checking the building can't bring me a piece of equipment out of it at this point. So our embossers are locked away. They're going to hand emboss for our vision students and mail it. Material for the blind. They're going to mail it under material for the blind and visually impaired so that it's free, so they don't have to worry about it. But they have envelopes, they have the manual embosser, and they are going to town.
Yeah, because right now we're not in that people couldn't enter a school and get it. So technically I could go get this embosser, but the person who does the embossing currently is in a home with no internet. So we're trying to problem solve the how do we provide, we have all the equipment, we have all the brailled information for what the students need this week. It's just trying to problem solve for next week. Thankfully, I have a week to breathe and figure this out. But I'm like, I know that it's not something we can send over the internet and be like, here, have your brailled information. That's not going to work for these students.
So
go ahead.
So one thing that I'm trying to encourage teachers to do is, if the student had additional accommodations such as read aloud, is there the potential that they could either use technology for read aloud, voiceover, screen readers, any of that? Could someone in the house help them even set that up? Could someone in the house do read aloud? I do recognize that in a lot of cases, our students need the embossed braille, and similar situations, I've got schools sitting in schools, but we can't get the braillist to the equipment or the equipment to the braillist. And trying to do it on an old-fashioned Perkins, bless their heart, they're going to have carpal tunnel in no time trying to get all those materials out. So trying to look at what accommodations and modifications are already on an IEP. What could we use that we have? And I'm a big proponent of technology anyway. So trying to incorporate as much technology as we can. And then I wanted to look at and talk to my friends over at CAST for the accessible media producers for Braille, to see how districts could work out maybe some small contracts with some of those independent Braille producers who could get the materials electronically, already have embossers set up to produce it, and maybe working out of home offices and could mail it out. So that's forthcoming, but you know, one hurdle at a time.
Yeah, Crystal, those are great ideas. It made me think too about, are there any local colleges or universities around you where someone might be able to get into their building and they have an embosser? I wonder if you could maybe reach out to them. You know, going against Joe's issue of not being able to get in the building at all. Maybe at a college, you might be able to get in the building with some social distancing. They might be able to do that, and maybe they could help you out also.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know a lot of the college students that I still am in touch with, they've moved to total technology, and especially for finishing out this last bit of the semester, they're moving to total technology.
Right, right. Yeah, and who knows, you might be able to still go. I know I teach at a school, and if I really needed to go there, I would be allowed to go. I'd have to stay away from everybody when I went, but I could go and access the building.
Yes. So lots to work out there, especially for those students who their only means of acquiring Braille is through embossed hard copies.
Does anybody know if Duxbury plus an embosser requires internet access to print?
So no.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm gonna think no, but I don't know. I'm just thinking that out loud. I don't have.
So no, once the Duxbury
if it's already on the computer.
Once it's already downloaded on the computer, it would work just like any other downloaded program, and you would not have to have internet access for it.
That's kind of what I was thinking and hoping, because then I think I could set her up with a desktop that's in the office, take it home with the embosser, and once we solve her login issue on non-internet, then she could emboss through Duxbury without having to have the internet, if it all follows true. But I just didn't know enough about Duxbury intricacies to know, does it need internet in any way when it's doing its process?
Yeah. I wonder if you could at the office preload all the materials in, and then she's just doing the embossing piece.
Yeah, it's the computer's already got Duxbury on it, and it's already got the embosser installed. So our biggest issue is that she does not have super strong, if at all, internet at home.
So you have access to get to your embosser, correct?
I could physically go and get it, and that's kind of plan B. My IT department wanted to know if we set up a VPN and she remoted into it, would it work? And I thought, that's great thinking, but we still need the stuff that comes off the embosser. Like, they weren't understanding what the embosser actually does.
Yeah, that is great IT thinking. But typical TVI thinking, that's not going to be practical.
Yeah.
So I guess my other thought was, you know, if someone has the Duxbury program and they had internet to be able to accept the documents, translate it into a file. Once that is sent, all you would have to do is just hit emboss. Well, it's actually Control P, I think.
Right. You would print it to the embosser.
Exactly. So if you could go into the office, if somebody could like preload the files and all you had to do was literally emboss, you wouldn't have to be there very long, and you could do it from there without having to move that heavy equipment, because those things are huge.
Yeah, I'm gonna ponder and see if that's possible. We'll see what IT will allow and what we can come up with.
Yeah, keep me posted on that.
Yeah, because it's just one of those weird subsets, not weird, but like very specialized subsets of technology need that God bless our IT folks, they're trying to figure out, but they don't know.
Yeah,
I only know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, low incidence, high needs is what I call us.
Yes, and that's the world I live in. It's just, you know, not always the eye. So I'm glad to know that it's not just me trying to figure that part out.
Perfect. I like that we're leaving with your final inspirational quote is, we have just enough information to be dangerous. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of thing I need here. I think it's all of us. We have just enough to be dangerous. Last comments. We're 3 minutes past 1. I was trying to be respect your time. So anybody else before we bail out for the day? These are great. I like these. I hope you guys too. I like just sitting here and chatting for an hour. I think it's great without much of a plan and just kind of hearing what other people are doing. So hopefully you can keep joining us. I'll keep scheduling them as long as people want to keep coming, because I think they're fun.
Yes.
Other thoughts? We good? All right, we're good. All right, guys.
Have a great week.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
If you guys are around on Friday, we'll do the open office at 1 o'clock Eastern. The link is on the ATAC website. I'll post it out. I'll tweet it out at some point. All right, guys.
Okay, see ya.
Adios.
Okay.
Have a good day.